Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, things are escalating pretty quickly around the world, but most especially in the Middle East. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm sure most of you are trying to keep track of it as best as you can, and it's getting quite difficult because stuff is happening so quickly. This isn't necessarily a news brief, but I am going to try to throw a few things at you that have happened today, or at least in the last 24 hours, to kind of get you up to date before I kind of carry on further today. Lebanon is now pretty much fully involved. I haven't seen any kind of declaration of war per se against Lebanon, but Lebanon has been, and it looks like Hezbollah and whatever factions and groups in Lebanon are firing into Israel, and Israel is responding, firing back into Lebanon. Potentially, some Israeli tanks have been hit by missiles coming out of Lebanon, and so that's escalating in that area. Just not too long ago, Israel reported some missiles and mortar rounds coming in from Syria to Golan Heights, and then they have been responding back. So whether or not it's an official part of the Syrian government or even the Lebanese government, there's definitely two other places now that are directly involved with this. Of course, there's been all kinds of reports of various factions, Iran saying that they're supporting it. The U.S. government is claiming that Iran was directly involved in funding this and helping them organize it. But that's kind of all old news at this point. This morning it came out that there were, and I'm going to try to tiptoe through this to get through the censors because this is graphic information, that a news agency out of Israel reported that IDF had found a room with 40 babies that had been decapitated. Now, I just saw moments ago that another news agency in the Middle East is claiming that they spoke with Israeli military, and they're saying that they know of no such reports. So we're not sure if that's exactly correct. I'm sure there's misinformation and lies and propaganda on both sides being spread right now. So it's difficult to know what's true. There's certainly a lot of graphic images and videos being spread around, and that's certainly it looks to be legitimate, right? But it's hard anymore to know exactly what's happening. But I am very certain that there are a lot of lives being lost on both sides, and I'm sure it's just a bloody battle on both sides and a lot of death. And certainly what appears that Hamas has done in Israel is just beyond any kind of comprehension that anyone would do in any kind of battle. And absolutely horrible, and in no way would I ever justify that. There's more and more stuff coming out constantly. It looks to be that there were potentially 14 Americans that were killed in this and possibly more held hostage. Some of the stuff that was done in that, especially the initial part of this, is starting to come out, where it appears as some of these Hamas captors, or whatever you want to call them, terrorists, whatever you want to call them, were actually taking the personal cell phones of the people that they are capturing, calling their parents or friends or family, or posting things on their family's walls as they were taking these victims out. Just some really horrendous stuff going on. Of course, you all know that the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier strike force group has been sent over to Israel. NATO has activated its Maritime 2 group, I believe is what it's called, which is one of their naval forces. The Greek Navy has gone on high alert because of all this, and they are sending some frigates also to Israel, so there's more and more involvement. I could go on and on. There's so much going on. I could make probably a very lengthy video of all the stuff that's happening. And again, that wasn't necessarily the purpose of this video. The purpose is, folks, is that things are escalating fast, and the very likelihood of something expanding just beyond the bounds of Israel and Gaza, or Israel and Palestine, are becoming more and more likely. There are active protests, or at least there have been in the last 48 hours or so, throughout places in Europe. Canada, Australia, cities here in the United States. Many cities, including New York and Washington, D.C., are on high alert because they're worried that there could be violent activity out of these. There are more and more people posting things online that, and again, I can't verify any of this, that they claim that they have intelligence connections, or their former intelligence, or they have spoken with people in positions in government that are claiming that the scuttle, the word on the street is that the actions that we have seen in Israel will start happening here in cities across the United States. Now, of course, I cannot confirm that at all. I have received emails myself from people that are claiming that they are former or current, or they have family members that are in positions that would know, and so they're warning them. I can't confirm these, but when we start to see so many things line up, and again, if you remember, if you've been watching me for a while, this type of intel has been pouring in for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. I've been reporting on that for the last few weeks, that I'm getting intelligence, whether it's true or not, I can't verify, from people that claim that they're former FBI agents, or that they're current FBI agents, or they have family that work for DHS or FBI or various other agencies, and that they're being told to get themselves, their families, prepared to stock up because they have intelligence that bad things are about to happen in the United States. And then now this happens, and then the intel just kind of explodes from there. We may be getting to a point that we have to really become active, not just in this preparedness status. You know, getting prepared is usually something you do before something happens. We may soon be in a reactionary status, where we're no longer preparing, but we're reacting and gathering ourselves to form a plan of how to combat whatever happens, whether it's direct violence, or it could be government shutting down certain things because of violence in other areas. There may not be any violence in your area, but because it's happening in certain areas, we could see things like emergency orders, declarations, and even martial law being used against the United States citizens because of this hyper fear of what's happening. These are all very real possibilities. If we become fully engaged in Israel, in the Middle East, which it's looking more and more like that. It's been said by the United States that we have sent special operations units into Israel to assess things. These are kind of hostage negotiators and potential strike teams. There's very vague information on that. I don't know exactly which units are being sent in, but there are also rumors, and the State Department or the U.S. military has said that it's possible that at some point in the future, some of these units may be sent into Gaza to try to rescue any Americans that are in there. If that's the case, then we're talking, things like Delta, or, DevGru, SEAL Team 6, maybe some Green Beret units, things like that, some ODAs that would be sent in for things like that. That's escalating things, and that's putting us more in direct conflict of this. Now, the official narrative right now is that Iran is kind of orchestrating all this to draw us into a Middle Eastern war. That could be true. There could be other things that we are kind of orchestrating things too. I mean, we did just give them $6 billion and authorize them to give $75 to $80 million to the Palestinians in Gaza shortly before this all happened. So how much of our direct involvement, and I say our, I mean the American government, we don't know yet. I suspect that there's a whole lot more than that's being told to get us and the rest of the world involved into more chaos, because they want to create the order out of the chaos that they create. That's just how it works. That's how their great reset, their new world order plan is going to come about, is because they're creating massive chaos and confusion and destruction and collapse all over the world, so that they can bring in this new era, this new time where things will drastically change. So I'm not buying everything completely. I think that there's probably a lot more going on. But the point is, before I get too off on multiple rabbit trails, is that you and I have to become seriously prepared. We have to take things in a level of seriousness that maybe you haven't before. You need to understand that we are pretty rapidly, potentially, I mean, I can't guarantee things, but it appears that we're pretty rapidly moving from just a preparedness status to a react status, to where we are actually having to do things to protect ourselves, whether that be through violence by means of this kind of stuff, or we could see grid disruptions, we could see greater supply chain disruptions, we could see things like I mentioned, martial law and other things, depending on the possibility of various violent things that could happen around the country. A lot of things are extremely unstable right now, and if you spend any time online on any news or Twitter or anything like that, you'll see pretty quickly that there's a lot of fear and a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty going on. You and I need to not be part of that fear and confusion and uncertainty, because we prepare for things like this. And so don't allow yourself to be kind of falling apart and like, oh my goodness, I knew this would happen, but now that it's here, what do I do? We need to keep our heads about us, folks, and keep our wits about us, and continue on with our preparedness at a more active and a more serious level. If there are things that you need to be stocking up on, I would highly suggest you do that very soon. I understand money is always an issue. You know, if you had the money, you could do it. But most of you don't have the money, and so you have to be careful about where you put it and what is the most important. I get that. But the fact is, the way things are looking, I mean, we could be days and at most furthest out just a few weeks before things happening, because stuff is moving along so fast. There's so many verbal threats online from various groups as to what they plan on doing or what will happen in the United States. We don't know how much longer we have. It could be a very long time. Nothing may happen. Absolutely nothing may happen. But the way things are going, it doesn't look like nothing's going to happen. And so we have to be actively working on preparing. So again, stocking up on the things that you need. You need to make very quick evaluation. Think of yourself like the government would be. Is your alert level heightened? Do you have a heightened alert level with your preparedness, with your home, your mag, your family, whatever it is, so that you can go into action if need be, if something happens? Are you stocking up on fuel? Because that's going to be a big thing. Do you have preparations for winter? Because this is most likely going to drag out at least through the winter and probably into next year or even longer. So you need to make sure that your winter preparations are nailed down. Just today or yesterday, Finland announced that one of the gas pipelines and communications cables in the Baltic Sea has been damaged or broken, and under their investigation, they believe that it was done by an outside force, that some type of bomb or something has damaged a gas pipeline and communications cable in the Baltic Sea. So you throw that into the mix too. Communications within your group, you better have it nailed down solid. I mean, I'm not advocating buying the cheapest stuff, but you can buy right now, in fact, I checked today, things on Amazon like Baofeng radios for $20, $25, pretty decent deals. Making sure if you have any gear that you might need, you need to get that stuff. Ammunition, food. If you go to the store and just look at non-perishable things that will last at least 5 years on a shelf, which is most of your canned food, most of your dry goods, and get those nailed down so that you have preferably at minimum 6 months food supply. Minimal 6 months food supply. If you can stretch that out to a year or two, of course, that's good for those of you that can afford it. There is a link in the description below to my Patriot Supply. It's a company that I work with. They offer really excellent valued emergency freeze-dried food. You get it in the buckets. You probably already know that. But if you use the link that I provide, it definitely helps us out and helps our community out, because a large portion of the funding of the actions and stuff of our community comes through this channel. But there's a whole lot more that we need to be doing. You know, water source. Do you have your water source nailed down? There could be disruptions of utilities, water sources, things like that is very much what we could be seeing. Electricity, gas lines, whether they be natural gas or gasoline or diesel. I mean, our strategic petroleum reserves are down to the lowest level we've seen in almost 40 years. And then this is happening, so it wouldn't take too much to put us into a very tight situation where there's shortages and potentially rationing of fuel. So make sure you have that kind of stuff. Propane, it's expensive, and it's most likely going to continue going up, partly because of the winter and then partly because of increased war activities around the world. So make sure you have that purchased. Firewood, clothing, medical supplies, over-the-counter meds. Over-the-counter meds are going to become harder and harder to get. I've heard from pharmacists and a nurse practitioner just in the last week or so that they're already seeing and have been seeing gradual increases in the worsening of medicines availability. So if you can get your over-the-counter medications, and if you can get your doctor to write you extra prescriptions for prescription medications, that would certainly be good. Make sure you have a decent supply of bandages and gauze and tape and things to patch wounds and take care of that kind of stuff. I know it's a lot. I get it. It's like I'm telling you to go from 0 to 100 in a few seconds. But most of you have been down this path and on this train for a long time. So you should be much more advanced. You should have quite a bit going for you. But what I'm telling you is, and the point that I'm trying to get across, is the way things are looking right now, we may not be that much further away from things escalating to a much more substantial point than probably most of you suspected just a few weeks ago. I know there's been talk about winter getting bad, not necessarily the cold, but the state of global affairs. But now things are actually happening, and they're escalating very rapidly on a moment-by-moment basis. And we can no longer just be sitting around talking about how bad things are and what we need to be doing. We now need to be putting action to our words. And for those of you that aren't going to do it, those of you that are the naysayers and rolling your eyes and want to troll in the comments, that's fine, but don't expect folks like myself or the others that are watching to come to your aid. We're getting into some more serious and perilous times right now, and most certainly they could improve and things could kind of blow over eventually and they end up not being that bad, but that's not the way it looks right now. So I would strongly encourage you to take things seriously and to start stocking up, prepping up, having communications with your family and your MAG. If you're part of a MAG or some kind of community group that is prepping together, I would suggest you start meeting on a more regular basis. If you meet monthly, do it weekly. If you meet weekly, do it twice a week. Whatever it is, you need to start having very regular communications in what you're doing and how as a group you can get more prepared and be ready when things happen. Because just because you think you've got it all set away doesn't mean that things aren't going to hurt and aren't going to throw you off your rocker when stuff starts hitting. And it's very possible they will soon, based on the craziness that's going on. So folks, you need to be getting your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.